Good morning and welcome to PWR Today, Thursday morning. It is June 11th. I'm the man they call Meathead. Hey, don't forget, folks, coming up on Facebook, YouTube, Fight TV, Apple Podcasts, even Spotify. You can like and subscribe to the PWR Today program and everything else from the Pro Wrestling Report. Make sure you're giving us a like. Make sure you get that subscribe going because, you never know when an extra bonus episode's coming up. And today, my guest is the host and creator, Dameon Nelson. Good morning, Dameon.
Then how am I your guest?
Well, this is my show now, isn't it?
Oh, this is the theme to Gary Show, the opening theme to Gary Show. This is the music that you hear as you watch the credits. And now I'm to the part of where I start to whistle. This is the theme to Gary Shandling Show. Welcome, everyone, to the Pro Wrestling Report today.
I missed we're halfway through it. How did you like it so far? There's other parts in it, but yeah, the first, love it. Love it. Miss Gary Shandling. Hail Hydra. Dameon, welcome. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm absolutely fantastic here on a Thursday morning, coming off the heels of an awesome AEW and an awesome NXT last night. As crappy as... and I say crappy respectfully, as crappy as professional wrestling is right now, Wednesday nights has become the night to watch.
It's fun. It's absolutely fun.
It is bearable. It is bearable. What AEW has been able to pull off has reignited the fandom in a lot of people, including myself. And, when you watch it, it is so fresh, so new, so different from the corporate WWE that we've seen over the last few years that it makes it's a show I look forward to watching every week.
Hey, let me ask you this. So we're here in June now, right? AEW launched in September or October? I think it was October.
It was September 2 years ago, went on TNT October of last year, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I know that AEW, the company's been around for 2 years, but I'm talking about Dynamite specifically. Yes. Could you imagine, if you go back in time and put yourself in those shoes, could you imagine AEW has done what they've done for the wrestling business right now?
Not at all. In fact, when they first launched, I didn't think it would last. I wished it would, but I didn't think it would because I'm like, this is just it's a niche audience. It's only a portion of the overall wrestling audience, which has dwindled over the years.
Yeah.
They're only going to appeal to so many people, but they have proven me and every single detractor wrong, and they have become the most exciting thing, literally, week after week in professional wrestling. I don't just say that because Cody is the greatest wrestler in the world right now, and obviously I've been a fan of his and endorsed him for several years, but they're just doing everything they do feels so organically right, whereas WWE on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday just feels so
produced,
corporate, so polished that it's just not, it's difficult to connect. With AEW, it's not cheering for the underdog, it's cheering for the dog that's in the fight that continues to fight, and that's what feels good about it.
Yeah, and speaking of feeling good, let's talk about AEW from last night. Cody defends the TNT Championship again, this time not bloodied, but ends up winning his match. I mean, he looked good. They opened up the match with your boys, FTR, pulling up. Their entrance is literally in a pickup truck. They pull up to the ring and start fighting. Your thoughts on FTR?
Mean this week?
I think it's still the rest.
I'm sorry.
That was me censoring myself.
Flulu?
Yes. Fulu, yes. They Fulu the rest.
So this week it's the rest, not the Revolt, not the Roosevelt, because I still think it means Franklin Delano Roosevelt from the New Deal. He was a president.
It's FTR, not D, by the way. FTR, Tango.
Oh, it sounds the same. I'm sorry. I'm looking for somebody who could be presidential right now, and they'd even be better.
You know what? I know a guy that got a vote in 2016. I know a guy that got one vote. It was voted from in Calumet County here in Appleton. He got a vote. Maybe he needs to put his name in that ring again.
Do I learn his name?
Yeah, his name is Colin Wayne Sikowski.
No. I learned recently Colin Powell, who was the Secretary of Defense or whatever it was under Bush, George W.
Bush Sr., yeah.
was actually the third runner-up in the electoral votes in the 2016 election.
Really?
Just from being written in.
Just from being written in.
Yeah. Now keep in mind, third runner-up means like 5 or 6 electoral votes, but it's like there were smart enough people in the right places to actually detract and vote for Colin Powell, which
right. No,
again,
I voted for myself because there was no way on this God's green earth that I could not vote for any of those two asshats. No. No.
Yeah, I didn't like the Green Party candidate either.
Nope. So Ronald Dwayne Psychowski received 1 vote.
Dwayne?
Yeah, Dwayne. Folks, there it is. Hot news.
Wait a minute.
News.
All these years, how the hell did I not? Dwayne?
Dwayne.
And
how do you spell it? You probably think it's spelled D-E-W. It is not.
No, it's got to be D-W.
No, D-U-A-N-E.
Oh, that's gross.
Dude, I'm spelled just like Dwayne Gay, Milwaukee legend from Channel 12.
He's dead.
He is dead. God rest his soul. He's still funny. And
Dick Johnson out of Chicago, NBC5, just died earlier this week. Rest his soul.
That's unfortunate.
I did make that name up, by the way.
Dwayne. Write that down, folks. For those that thought my name was Cosmo, it's not. It's Dwayne.
Cosmo!
Yeah. No, he got a vote. He might be getting a vote again in November as well.
Well, that's one.
Like I said, maybe it's time for a change. Enough is enough. Let's talk AEW before we go off onto this tangent about politics. And it's ironic, Dameon, we've known each other for years, and you know that I'm on the elephant side and you're on the donkey side. And we both agree it's time for a change. Let's talk AEW. I loved that FTR showed up, came in, fought. They fought Butcher and Blade, got the victory, had a little altercation with the Young Bucks. I love that they are in here to wrestle. You didn't see a bunch of shenanigans. I mean, they're not, wearing fancy gear. I mean, they're just fighters. Your thought on the FTR showing up and actually wrestling?
It's interesting. And for those of you out here in the podcast world, they were on Jim Cornette's podcast last week. Correct. Jim Cornette, who has been just simply toxic towards AEW. He refers to Marco Stunt as Marco Stunted Growth. And that's just all wrong, by the way. But Jim Cornette, having them on his podcast, them being very public, saying they're not about flips and elbows, they're about wrestling. There could be something brewing here that could be very interesting. And that's what I talked about earlier in the show with AEW. They do, I don't want to say the right thing, but the right thing. And as critical as Jim Cornette has been about AEW, it would be absolutely perfect for him to come in and manage the old school wrestlers, that in FTR, against everything he has publicly rallied against in AEW since its inception. You look at things like Bret Hart coming back to WWE. You look at Sable coming back to WWE. You look at Ultimate Warrior coming back to WWE. Yeah. People who sued the company and in some cases won and took millions upon millions of dollars out of Vince McMahon's pocket. But he brought them back because it was good for business. I can't think that Jim Cornette showing up in AEW would be absolutely phenomenal. Now, it would reveal the fact that Jim Cornette's podcast is just a work, and by the way, the best work in the business right now. But at the same time, it would set FTR apart from the rest of the competition in such a way that we are outsiders. We are here. They've gone public and said they're working on a handshake deal, if you will, with AEW and don't have a contract. That feeds the fire even more. So I think there's a ton of potential there. The revival in WWE, I think that, look, when you sign a contract with WWE, I think it's pretty essentially known that you're signing your soul over. And they were very vocal about the fact that they were underutilized in their opinion. They wanted to wrestle. They were they were acclaimed as one of the greatest tag teams in wrestling. But you know what? WWE is not, and nor will ever be, nor has ever been a wrestling company.
Never has, never will.
AEW is a wrestling company. So they're much better there. But they've burned a lot of bridges. They did a lot to get to AEW. They need to make sure that this ends up being worth it, because it's all on them now. They don't have a machine behind them.
It's funny you say that too, because there was a move at the end of the match called the Goodnight Express. Wink, wink.
There it is.
Goodnight Express. Maybe we're foreshadowing here. AEW Women's Champion Shida and the Galaxy's Greatest Alien, Chris Statlander, taking on the Native Beast Nyla Rose and Penelope Ford in a tag team match. Good solid wrestling action, but I'm kind of burying the lead here. Did you happen to see the video of Darby Allin hanging out with Tony Hawk, the Tony Hawk? That Darby Allin's a one of a kind.
Isn't it perfect? You know, I've Darby Allin is on the Nelson family. He's endorsed. He's an amazing talent, a great guy too, by the way. I've met him. I've talked to him. I mean, he lives the gimmick. I've also met and talked to Tony Hawk in the past, and while I've never skateboarded because that's not quite our thing.
Whoa, wait, our? Do you mean people on the Nelson family, or what are you saying, Dameon?
No, Nelson family. Tony Hawk's never been drafted to my team. That's exactly what I mean. So, you know,
that must have been a text from Tony Hawk right there too. Kind of upset about it.
Look at it with Darby Allin and the skateboard gimmick and all that. It's a perfect fit. Now, Tony Hawk, how relevant is he to the current audience? I don't know, but Darby Allin's a special talent, and he's one of the many special talents in AEW right now. We talked about FTR. See, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. We talked about FTR before. Mm-hmm. But you've got them, you've got Darby Allin, you've got Sammy Guevara, you've got so many standout, just different, unique, I almost want to say complex, but not talents. But in the case of Darby Allin is very complex. He is, much like CM Punk was in WWE, straight edge, not hardcore, but straight edge, and lives that gimmick. And, you know, hey, AEW has proven time and time again that they could bring in people who are relevant. You've got Mike Tyson, now you've got Tony Hawk, and those little things that are big things over the course of continuously seeing them will, I apologize, I'm still watching AEW if you can hear the television in the background, will continue to solidify AEW as a reputable wrestling organization. WWE has long whored themselves out to anything that's not wrestling that recognizes them. Sam Roberts, Joe Rogan, ESPN, all of those things, they somehow or another feel it legitimizes them. But what AEW does is they don't make a big deal out of the fact that people are making a big deal out of them. They present and integrate in such a way that it all feels organic and natural, and that makes it better. They're not insulting the fans with trying to make the fans believe something they're not seeing, which is something WWE does. And I want to be clear, I'm not knocking WWE. They are corporate. They are a global brand. No one will ever touch them as far as professional wrestling goes, as far as sports entertainment goes, including AEW. But when you watch it long enough, it starts to become a bit taxing. AEW has not become taxing, and it's because of stars like Darby Allin and the integration of Tony Hawk that makes that possible.
Yeah, and you know, the next segment specifically, you know, we're talking about people that are unique to this thing and aren't just, you know, where TNA may have failed, you know, people that WWE let go and now they've picked them up, you know, and we talked about that on a previous show before. Orange Cassidy, unfortunately, was bloodied with a bag of oranges tonight by Les Champions. I see big things for Orange Cassidy because, again, when he needs to, Orange Cassidy can go and he can fight.
You know, I wonder. I've said before, I didn't get Orange Cassidy when he first started, or when I first started watching AEW. I'm like, what the hell is this? This guy doesn't do anything. Why is he making a mockery of the business? And back to the Jim Cornette podcast, Jim Cornette refers to him as pockets, which is hilarious.
It's funny that Cornette says it, but honestly, I mean, he doesn't get it. Maybe Cornette, while I think he would help FTR, maybe Cornette needs to get associated with today's fan. He might be... Well, he might be, you know, involved in today's product and he watches it and he sees it, but maybe he doesn't get today's fan because that Orange Cassidy is a today type of fan.
You're right. And hell, you know what? I tend to be a bit of a wrestling purist. I tend to be a guy that, you know, likes the past more than the current. And we talked about this recently on Primetime with Shane Helms. You know, it's it's not a tough spot to be in, but it's a unique spot to be in because you can't think the wrestling of old is the only wrestling that will ever be. You can't think the wrestling of now is the only wrestling that will ever be. The business has evolved. AEW is doing a great job of making the fans feel part of the product, not insulting the fans' intelligence, whereas WWE is more like the medicine that you take to make you better, and the better is the way they want you to be, not necessarily because something is wrong with you. AEW, I guess, this is going to sound horrible, is a bit of a drug. It's an upper, whereas WWE is a downer. And that's fine because it's a legal drug because you're just watching it on TV. But I think that's the difference. And look, I want to be clear. I don't ever want to knock Jim Cornette in his podcast or anything he says. I think Jim Cornette is one of the most brilliant minds in the wrestling business. I listen to his podcast every week. I cringe sometimes at the things he says, but he has also taught me one of the greatest terms I use in my life regularly, which is referring to someone who is just someone who is just, I can't use the word.
You can use the word.
Use the word. No, someone who's just, you just can't stand. Okay. And he refers to them, and usually it's a woman, unfortunately, and I don't advocate this, but he refers to them. And he used to say this about Dixie Carter, actually, of TNA. He used to refer to her as a quote-unquote insufferable twat. And yes. I'm not sure you could say much worse in this world than those. No,
there's only one word worse, and we're not going to say it here. I mean, this is a classy program, Dameon.
But at the same time, there's no definition better than those two words. It's like, all right, well, I guess I know how he feels. I'm not advocating it. I'm not saying he feels. I feel the same way. But I'm a fan of Jim Cornette. I love listening to him. I appreciate his perspective. I appreciate everything that he brings to the business. But sure. And I don't want to knock him, but he's got a unique perspective, and no one could ever change his perspective, and it is what it is.
He is what he is. It is what it is. And just like, as somebody used to refer to me as the drunk uncle of the Pro Wrestling Report, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that was you. Never mind.
Yep, that was me.
So not to cut NXT off short, I do want to go over NXT real quick. I loved what happened in the main event. It's not Samuel Shaw. It's say his name again.
Yep.
I am so terrible at this. One of these days I'm going to get better at my job here. Not Samuel Shaw.
I see him as Sam Shaw. I really do, because it was a great character in TNA. It's a great character in
Dexter
WWE.
Lumis. I just came up with it.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing match. Dexter Lumis, he was a star in TNA, but he was a lower end star. He had a weird thing, but it worked. They, we talk about the corporate setup of WWE and NXT and whatever you have it. They actually are shining the light on Dexter Lumis in the right way, and I think it's working for him.
Yeah, he had a big part in that backlot brawl on the pay-per-view this past Sunday night. Mm-hmm. I think his character, which I've met him several times. He's a great person. He's been on the show a few times, and that's a character and a gimmick, if you will, that he lives, and he does it and he delivers it perfectly. I think there's a lot of upside to that role in NXT.
Do you ever see him making to the main event? The main roster?
Absolutely. He's got a great look. He's got a unique look. He's got in-ring ability. Absolutely, I see it.
Okay. An amazing match tonight with Adam Cole. Last night on NXT. Amazing match. I really thought he had a chance maybe to be made the number one contender. He did not win after interference and shenanigans. However, Karrion Kross has set out the hourglass. Time is ticking on the NXT champion and that belt. This may be the time that Adam Cole finally drops it. Your thoughts?
I think it's almost time. I think it's got to be. It's been long enough that Adam Cole has been champion that when he does drop it or has a competitor that seems like they may take it, it will be then worthwhile. And that's what you want with a championship change. Is it's got to be. I don't want to say believable, but it's got to be reckonable that could have happened, and you want to see the champion up against a formidable competitor because it brings you into the match.
Yeah, absolutely. And we, talk about this for years, on different platforms, whatever. When Brock Lesnar defeated The Undertaker, where did all that heat go to? Well, went on to Brock Lesnar, but I thought that would be something he would pass over. All this time that Adam Cole has had the belt, you get all this steam, all this, build, all this push. the person that takes that from him has to take that and run with it as well. And it could be Karrion Kross.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, folks, again, we ask. We don't beg, but we do ask. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. What else is that, Dameon?
We need the revenues. You guys aren't cheap.
Apple Podcasts, on the old Spotify, anywhere you're downloading podcasts, we should be there. Fight TV, our great friends at Fight TV, give us a like and a subscribe. And I know we've got big programming coming up tonight. Shane Helms tonight on with you and Dameon, or you and Dave, right?
Why I'd love, and the world would be better off if there were two of me. No, it will be me and David, along with Hurricane Shane Helms, every Thursday night live on Fight TV, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is prime time with Shane Hurricane Helms, and he never holds back. He discusses things frankly, and keep in mind, his most recent job was that of a producer in WWE, so he knows a lot more than a lot of people who go on TV or go on podcasts talking about wrestling.
And that could be why he smoked Dave Hero again and be the booker this last week. I mean, I'm just saying.
He absolutely did. And you think he knows somebody or somebody.
You would think, hey, there's a chance. Again, we don't say there is, but, if you like and subscribe, you might find out there might be another Beat a Booker for Backlash this Sunday. And real quick, speaking of PWR draft and getting points.
So wait a minute. I'm sorry. I can't. What?
That's all right. You can keep saying you don't hear me. There is an update to the draft coming up this Saturday on primetime with all the associates, the big super show. And it's not news you're going to like, Dameon Nelson.
Who has gained the most points in the history of the 2020 PWR draft? Who has gained the most points?
I still have. Even though you were at negative.
Not earned. Who has gained the most points in the draft?
Ronald Dwayne Psychowski. I mean, how else do you
listen? Anyways, in regards to the PWR Fantasy Draft, I have defeated everyone bigly. It is the biggest win anyone has ever seen. I have defeated everybody else in the draft more so. Just believe me. It is bigly. It is huge. No one has ever seen it before. It is the biggest thing ever. It
Would
will
you
be
look
the
at
biggest
that?
win
We're
in the
past
draft.
our 20 mark.
It will be the biggest win in the draft. Believe me. Never. No one has ever seen this before. I guarantee it. Believe me. It's bigly.
For Dameon Nelson, I'm the man they call Meathead. Thanks for stopping by. So long, everyone.